And when it comes to the so-called debate, the debate between the so-called moderate flank and radical flank, between the people who are Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil and so on, and those who are more like Climate Majority Project, as Rupert Reed and so on are now, I'm a bit more of the Climate Majority Project ilk. I think there's a time for the radical flank to draw attention to things, but our hope is ultimately in a kind of peace. And by peace, I mean, I'm less inclined to want to go to war with the government of the day or to turn off the energy grid and, I don't know, burn the Shell headquarters or whatever. That's not my scene. I think what you need to do is build coalitions among already powerful groups that don't know quite how powerful they are, whether that's lawyers or doctors or teachers, but sites of collective agency where people feel it's not their job to speak about climate because they're not an environmental NGO. But actually it is. Actually, we have to galvanize on the basis of existing structures in order to have a chance to transform things, which means that the we's that we need today are coalitions of the willing who are not environmental activists. I've always felt there was a deep problem with the conflation of environmentalism and climate change. Like, I think there's something about the climate conundrum that's altogether more entangled and endemic with every form of life. And outsourcing it to the green movement and to the environmental NGOs was always a huge strategic blunder. That what you need is for what would conventionally be seen as guilds or interest groups or unions, other civil society kind of clusters, to use their collective power to speak on climate as if it were their issue, because it is. It's everyone's issue. But we've outsourced our agency to these so-called, specialized groups. But the key is to make this an everyone issue. But you make it an everyone issue by also being honest about just how big an issue it is. And also how variegated it is, because, the risk of a wet bulb temperature in India or Africa is not the same as coastal flooding harming a property investment, in Portobello, Edinburgh or something, somewhere near the sea. And the more specific you get, like good writing is famously good when it's specific. Like you don't describe, a red dress. You describe a scarlet dress with sequins, and suddenly the mind is more enchanted, right? In the same way with climate change, this morass of an issue needs to be made more specific to bring it to life. And I think that's the challenge now. It's sort of, what is the future of climate? Well, it's really fascinating, darkly fascinating how it will play out. No one can be absolutely sure, but it's not an Armageddon story. It's not that everything will suddenly collapse. It's that degradation will take place and there will be indirect effects of that on migration, health, pandemics, economic impacts, military impacts, and so on. And it's a training in systems thinking. So what's exciting about it is potentially having a population waking up and thinking in a more sophisticated way at scale. And my hope for that to happen is not through climate change. So coming back to your question, it's not leading with, are you into climate change or not? It's what is your role in society? Are you, are you a doctor? Are you a business person? Are you a lawyer? Are you, what are you doing? And how can you build collective action in your arena, your sphere of agency, such that people listen to you to a greater extent? And what are you proposing that people do? Not just act on climate, because that's maddeningly vague too. What in particular do you want to do? And then how do you make it happen? Sorry, that was a long answer, but that's roughly how I see it.